up against the Terran player to the bottom left of the map. We have in blue Liquid TaeJa. And he's, of course, up against his teammate, the Zerg player to the top right in red. This is TLO.
A lot of the time when you go into a match like this, it really seems like, you know, someone with TaeJa's mechanics, you would want to cheese him. Like you said, maybe try something crazy against him. But TLO is saying he wanted to go to macro game. And if you do want to go to a macro game ZVT, this is one of the better maps to do it. It's gigantic, wide open, and very, very big, very easy to secure a lot of expansions on, and also very possible to actually attack into that third base of the Terran player, which is something you usually can't really do. So it is possible he's going to go for something cheesy, but I think he's probably going to try and open up with a macro game here, and then choose which strategy he goes with, depending on how that goes.
Yep. I really want to see how exactly TaeJa is going to open up here. We talked a bit about his control of the Hellions, especially in the early game, where he was trying to hug that creep line a little bit too close, and then the Zerglings running in, taking down his initial force on the map, and therefore losing the map control. Well, it was a pretty big issue when he went up against Live Zerg. He made up for that with his mid-game and also the late game then. But in this scenario, that might be one of the things that TLO could be able to exploit here. And just talking about this matchup a little bit in general for those two players, giving you a bit of data on their Terran versus Zerg. We have TaeJa with 39 maps played in Heart of the Swarm. We're of course focusing a little bit on the offline performance here, since it's a whole different ballgame than from playing online. And TaeJa has a 72% win ratio with that sample size of 40 maps played. So that's
kind of incredible.
Pretty amazing. TLO, on the other hand, not quite on the same stats, but still pretty decent. TLO has actually played 60 maps against Terran players offline, and he won 62%. That's also pretty good.
That is also very impressive. Although you have to keep in mind that TaeJa is playing against a lot more Korean players, a lot higher level competition over in Pro League and the Korean leagues. So not quite as impressive, but still, anything over 60% is kind of absurd.
But actually going down the match history of TLO, you see that he played against a lot of Korean players as well.
Yeah, I guess actually in WCS, he makes it so far into every tournament now that he almost always ends up playing against a Korean at some point.
Yeah, exactly. But also the last match that they played, of course, that ended in favor of TaeJa. TLO took 2 maps in the best of 5, but TaeJa was the victor in the end. And TLO has been joking about this a little bit earlier and was saying it's getting closer and closer, so he feels it's his time to win.
And we see a Reaper opening coming out of TaeJa. This is actually the same thing he did against Live Zerg on this map yesterday. And from that Reaper, he went into tanks. And he did end up winning that game, but TLO is a much better player than Live Zerg. And actually talking to TLO, pretty much the same as any Zerg, will say that if the Terran opens up tanks, you just feel absolutely incredible. You sit back, you make a bunch of drones, and there's absolutely no threat for the next 5 minutes.
Star Station is one of the better maps for a Reaper opening because you have just such a huge area where you can jump up into the main base, and there's already the Reaper going in and causing a bit of trouble. But TLO with a nice defense here, not losing anything so far, starting with the Spore and the Extractor immediately. But the Reaper, of course, quite the nuisance in the early game here.
Yeah, but very nice reactions by TLO thus far. He hasn't actually lost a single drone despite 3 of them being down to 1 hit. Really, really good. He is going to let that gas finish, so going into speedling pretty quick. Be interesting to see if he lets both gases finish.
It looks like it.
It does, kind of. Well, that's a pretty easy mistake to make when you're running around trying to stop the Reapers from doing any damage. You just kind of forget to cancel it.
We actually have a couple of additional Reapers here for TaeJa. He's not sticking out with those 2. He's actually going straight into a 3rd Reaper as well, so a little bit more than you would usually see. And gets another base behind that, so going into the double command center here.
And that is very uncommon, because you see that TaeJa is actually forced to lift off his factory and make its own reactor, thus delaying his Hellion count by quite a bit, because he actually spent the production time on that 3rd Reaper. And the 3rd Reaper isn't likely to accomplish very much.
Yeah, and you know, funny as it is, I mean, in a scenario like this, TLO talked about him not being very confident in his ability to shut down TaeJa with a roach and Baneling aggression, but if he would actually do that on this map and be able to get the flag to deny his scouting, he would be in a really good position. I mean, it's of course like with the view that we have here, but still.
He would indeed, but that's not what he's doing. He's just going double gas and going up to speedling. And the reason for that is he wasn't actually expecting the Reaper opening. We saw that he didn't get any gases at all early on. That's also, now that I think about it, the reason that TaeJa actually opted to go the 3 Reapers, because he's going to be able to deny that 3rd base for quite some time. So he did just get those 2 gases to try and rush out speedling and get back some map control against the Reapers. Yeah,
speed is now halfway done, and TLO is going for his first evolution chamber, starting that upgrade heavy style. The Reapers need to be a little bit more careful here, but 4 in total. There's really a lot of Reapers, a lot of firepower here. He already took down a few of the creep tumors, just trying to limit TLO's just build with the creep. So there are no tumors that... Oh, actually he misses 1. No.
Oh, he does just barely get it.
Unfortunate for TLO, of course.
So he's doing a great job with his map control with the Reapers, but 4 Reapers is a pretty big investment. We see the first 2 Hellions coming out just now. That's nearly a minute late, really. So there's not too much of a threat here, but TLO still doesn't have that third base, and normally by this point you would really want that third base as a Zerg player. So
TLO also going into the Overlord speed since he wants to know what exactly is happening in the main base of his opponent. Thanks to the Reapers, he can't really move out and get any scouting done on the main base up to the point where he can get a bit of more map control with the speedlings. And now that the Hellions are suddenly in the picture, it's going to be even tougher for him to get the Hellions the Zerglings across the map.
yeah, TaeJa's just still doing an absolutely great job of containing him. That Overlord speed, I almost wonder if that's a response to the fact that TaeJa was playing so Banshee opening heavy yesterday. Definitely seems like he could be worried about something like that. And he has 6 Hellions out and 4 Reapers. That's a lot of damage against those Zerglings. Even if he gets this round, I think he's going to win this battle.
Yeah, especially at the mineral patches here. That's not where you want to engage with your Zerglings, but there are just so many that the sheer numbers are overwhelming the Terran player.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing for TLO to get that many kills. Obviously, he lost a lot of Zerglings, but taking out 6 Hellions and 4 Reapers is absolutely huge. TaeJa just has no map control right now, and that's what he really had going for him.
TaeJa has 4 Marines. That's all that he has at this point, and he is going into tanks again. This is exactly what we saw yesterday against Life Zerg.
Yep, and that Speed Overlord sees it. He knows for sure he's going tanks, and after cleaning up those Hellions, he knows that the Zerglings give him absolute map control for quite some time. So as late as his third base is, he's now free to make nothing but drones and really catch up on that economy. And we see actually a 4th hatch, a macro hatch coming down really, really quickly from TLO as well.
Yeah, and especially since he has a lead in the upgrades as well, so the Zerglings will really have a huge edge over the bio army that we have here coming up for TaeJa. TaeJa is just getting his production up. He's getting also his starport. He wants to have those medivacs out. In terms of siege tanks, we have only 1, and that might be as a defensive measure. We are going to find out if he really wants to commit to additional siege tanks and push out as he did against Leipzig yesterday. But for now, the Zerglings at least are trying to pressure that third a little bit, but the tank on the high ground is already shutting that down immediately.
Yeah, it does seem like that one tank is just going to be for defense. He has lifted off his factory and is building a reactor on it now, so switching into the more normal Widowmine composition. But even just getting that one tank slows you down so much. Though, to be fair, after losing the Reapers and the Hellions, he wasn't going to be moving out anyway, so that tank, it does just kind of keep him safe for the time being. It's not really wasting any attack potential just because he wasn't going to be able to attack anyway. Yeah. So it's not the worst decision, but either way, TLO just has total control right now.
Yeah, he's playing is really solid here, in a very good position for him. Goes straight into the infestation pit so that he can also go into the hive tech, of course. The +2 attack upgrade has been started as soon as the first upgrade was done, so doesn't lose any time here whatsoever. Goes into the speed now for the Banelings that he has there completed. And of course, most important of all, that 4th base. You know, one of the things that we talked about yesterday and that TaeJa doesn't do here, he doesn't get that Viking out. And if you just look at the minimap, you see Overlords everywhere scattered across the map. So the vision that TLO has is amazing.
Yeah, he's really taking advantage of that early Overlord speed he got and actually using it, a tactic that he's loved to use for a long time, actually dropping creep with an Overlord and using that to get forward tumors started to help cover the map in creep. An absolutely great tactic. Anyone who plays StarCraft knows how frustrating and how big of a difference it is to engage on creep versus off creep against a Zerg player.
Well, here we go with the +2 armor also being started. TaeJa missing the timing for his armory a little bit, which is why he cannot start 2-2 once that the first set of upgrade is completed. So TLO overall in a really great position here, forcing a scan with those tumors that you just mentioned. So that's something that TLO will not be too unhappy about.
Yeah, and that late armory is actually going to be a massive deal in this situation because TLO is rushing Hive just about as fast as you can. He's not going Mutiling Baneling, he's going straight up to Hive. And against Hive that fast, it's very important to do timing attacks and put pressure on your opponent. But without those 2-2 upgrades, he's just not going to be able to do that. You can't engage into 2-2 Ling Baneling with 1-1 bio unless you have a big advantage, and TaeJa doesn't have that. He's not going to be able to put any pressure on TLO until that Hive is actually already ready.
Yep, TLO with a great job so far. Overlords just moving away. Could actually try to save that, and yet now he moves it. We have 4 bases against 3 at this point, and still a force to the left side of the map just being set up there. TLO is already getting in position with the rest of his army, trying to set up flanks against them, potential aggression by TaeJa. The Terran player taking a lead in supply here. That's one of the things where TLO, of course, has to be a little bit careful, but that's also a result of TLO's fast attack.
Yeah, he's just teching. He hasn't made any tech units at all. 0 infestors, 0 mutas, as far as I know. Yeah, he hasn't even gotten the pathogen gland upgrade for his infestors, so he's actually going straight to Ultra. This may be almost an Ultra all-in, kind of. You just get up to Ultras as quickly as you possibly can. Maybe get the 3-3 upgrades. Yeah, he is going for 3-3 upgrades. And then
Super
as soon as
fast.
that finishes, just go in and attack. And that's, in my opinion, actually one of the better ways to play a ground style, because the big problem with not making mutas is controlling drops. But if drops, kind of bypass this out.
And there comes the attack towards the third base. Not too many units, but he takes down the Bioforces. The Widow Mines in this case actually working against TaeJa a little bit. But the Terran player still takes a pretty significant supply lead. Those fast +3 upgrades that we have for TLO are of course going to help him a little bit later on. Keep in mind that at this point TaeJa is behind one set in upgrades. His 2-2 didn't finish yet. The Ultralisk Cavern is done. Katina's Plating is on the board immediately. Another hatch now being built for TLO, who did not do too much at his fourth so far, just finishing the first gas over here. And this is exactly the time when TaeJa starts to move in. Trying to make that. The Bailing hits amazing here, not focused down. And oh my god, TLO is still down in supply, but doing a lot against this move.
Yeah, that was kind of bad by TaeJa, honestly. 2-2 is just about to finish, still not quite up, and he stood right on top of those Widow Mines. No real control at all, and he's actually losing all of the units still. Only one medevac full of Marines left, and that's not going to do anything. So this timing is just totally failed for TaeJa.
Yep. Good job here dropping a single Marine against those Banelings, so that at least helped him a bit here. But so far, TaeJa has really taken quite the beating in the last few fights. Still in the lead in overall supply, but TLO's position with those Ultralisks now coming into play is a pretty good one regarding his tech. And let's not forget about the Pathologic Glance upgrade that he adds here. So once we have Infestor Ultralisks, the Bioforces of TaeJa will be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, because what's happened here is TLO just invested totally in the late game. He was only making Lings and Banelings until he got up to that 3-3 in the Ultra Tech and now adding the Infestors. And he's gotten away with it. He survived. He took no damage to his economy. Really just traded cheap units for most of TaeJa's army. And now those investments have paid off. So it's only going to get worse for TaeJa from here.
Yeah, here come the Ultralisks already.
More
the
big
Banelings moving in, and those were great hits. The Ultralisks, of course, well, they take the shots here from the Widow Mines. With a couple of Queens, he could go for the Transfuse. Apparently, he missed that. He had enough energy on one of the Queens, but now he has to be afraid of losing his base over here.
Yeah, it looks like he will be able to salvage it, but he really needs Infestors out so he can control those medevacs.
Yeah.
A couple of good fungals with those Queens, and he might be able to clear them up. But this is the big problem with the non-muta-based styles. It's just so hard to control those medevacs.
You can see, on the other hand, that TLO is really starting to get a bit of the supply lead over his opponent. So he's doing a great job here, and that's when his tech is really starting to kick in. His +3 attack upgrade is already done, and just look how far away TaeJa is from getting 3-3. He's not even halfway done with those upgrades, and once the armor upgrade kicks in for the Ultralisks, those Marines are just going to tickle them.
Yeah, 3-3 with Ultra and Infestor tech against 2-2 Bio is just a huge, huge advantage for TLO. And it's really going to, like, TaeJa just has to defend this perfectly. Really good control and perfect macro to have any chance.
I'm a little bit surprised that TaeJa doesn't try to exploit those drop abilities a little bit more. But now we have TLO moving into the base of his opponent, taking down those Bioforces, putting them up against the wall. The Ultralisks are trying to take down that command center as well. A lift in the last second saves it for now, but the Zerglings and the Ultralisks are cornering the Bio army, and TaeJa is suddenly dropping in supply here, while the Infestors are going in for the Fungals as well. Great game so far by the German Zerg player.
Yep, a couple of those Ultras on really low health, though. 3-3 is nearing completion. Once TaeJa actually has 3-3, if he sets up in a more defensive position, if he gets more Widow Mines out there, he could actually hold this off. TLO has to be really careful. Oh, this command center just barely living with 100 HP left. But TLO has to be really careful about his engagements because he got a little bit overconfident there. He didn't wait for his Infestors. He didn't wait for his Zerglings. And attacking with Ultras off creep against Marauders is a good way to throw away an advantage.
Yep. He is up in bases on the other hand. He's on 5 bases against 4. If he could take down that 4th of TaeJa, that would definitely give him a bit of an edge. But 3-3 is now down. At least the attack upgrade armor will follow in a second. And TLO is just getting more Ultralisks, more Infestors, and trying to just control those drops.
Yep, and this is getting to the point where TaeJa starts abusing the Terran late game. He should just be dropping everywhere, putting up planetaries and playing super defensive. And no Broodlord tech anywhere in sight, so TLO is going to be trying to force fights with Ultras and Infestors, which is not really what you want to do against Marauders and Widow Mines unless you really have to.
It's actually a little bit surprising that he didn't add a Spire at some point in the game, but a great fungal here against that army, taking down the entire Bioforce. A few of the Medivacs get away, but in this scenario, like, with the Spire, do you feel that even adding like 2 or 3 Corruptors would help you just to control the Medivacs a little bit better in those fights?
Corruptors are just so slow and so easy to boost away from, and the drops are really... In the fights, it would be helpful, but I would rather have just a pack of mutas flying around. Like, when I play Mutaling Baneling into Ultraling, I actually continue to add mutas in the late game just to control medevacs. I really feel that's worthwhile. But with this style that TLO is playing, he's really been so gas-starved and so focused on the fast Ultras that I don't think he could have afforded it. I think he just has to do what he's doing and defend it the best he can.
Yeah, he's still maxed out. He's about to be maxed out. He's at roughly 200 supply now, but TaeJa is, of course, also just increasing his army size. And TLO, you can really see him moving across the map, trying to just go down on that 4 fourth base of his opponent. And where are those fungals? He could hit a beautiful one there. He hits one fungal and takes down the rest of the army as well. The Banelings rolling into the Marauders, not the ideal situation, but the Ultimates are on a tear right now. The reinforcements on the way, and TaeJa is dropping in supply once again. TLO with a 30-40 supply lead, trying to make this happen, trying to take down that Planetary. The Ultimates going to town here, trying to chase the Bioforces, but the Planetary can't lift anymore, and he might be able to take at least that space down.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he's... Oh, and TaeJa just GG's.
50 supply down. He knows that he cannot save the space anymore. The fourth is gone.